Holy Wild Birth is a podcast embracing the reclamation of giving birth rooted in God's original design, undisturbed.
Here, we share home birth stories highlighting God's presence as the great midwife, as well as conversations about all aspects of a holistic, spirit-led childbearing year, from the perspectives of myself, traditional midwife Lauren Hall, of Rooted in Eden Private Membership Association,
and me, holistic birth keeper and photographer Brooke Collier of Sister Birth. Together, we are co-founders and facilitators of Hearth Mother Journey, where we are raising up the next generation of holy wild birth keepers.
To choose a holy wild birth journey is to consecrate all of your decisions unto the Lord and reclaim creation unadulterated by centuries of human attempts to control and improve upon what God has called good.
Please remember that birth is not a medical event, but a natural process, and we are not your care providers, so this should not be taken as medical advice. I just wanted to say one last thing. We can edit this out later if we need to. But I also like to tell men that, unlike women, for most of human history, men have not been allowed in birth spaces. It has been strictly a feminine space. Like, men are kept out, actively kept out. So that kind of ancestral or like cellular knowing of how to be with birth.
We do, deeply.
Hey, we're here for another frequently asked question about home birth. And the question this time is, we have other children and we're planning a home birth. Part of me wants them there to see their sibling born, but I'm also nervous about how they'll handle it. How can I prepare them to possibly witness the birth? Essentially, kids at birth.
Kids at birth. Kids at birth. I love kids at birth. I would just have to say I love kids at birth.
I do too, very much.
But similarly to our last frequently asked questions about dads, there's so much, like expectation and relationship dynamics and all of that needs to come into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing is, can you be mom to the baby that you are trying to birth without having to mom the other children in the room, is one of my biggest questions to ask yourself. Are you going to be able to let dad or the whoever else is in the room to kind of be a key person, or are you going to be so in your head about what they need, your children's needs, that you can't fully release to your birth?
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you can hand that off to someone and you can fully be just birthing mom, instead of mom that is over snacks and nap time and, worrying about whether the diaper change was done or, the sibling rivalry that's starting to occur. Like, can you disconnect from that and let someone else be the point person? That's kind of like number one. You have to be able to do that.
Yeah. Can I share how I've handled that with
100%
my kids? Because I feel like we found pretty early on an approach that worked really well for that, to keep me out of my mom brain, which was that I solicited the help of another adult that I knew my children felt safe with, whom I also would feel okay if they ended up watching me give birth, because it has to be both.
It has to be both.
And this person has to be willing to come serve, understanding that they might not get to see the birth. So if they're excited about it, they need to know they're not promised that experience, because their job is to tend to the kids. So I just find somebody that's usually been a single young woman in my life that my kids know. And she will come and I just tell her and the kids, like, this is your person, kids. If they need a snack, friend, you're going to take them out to get a snack. If they need to just watch shows or go outside or take a walk, you're on point with them. But I do personally feel open to them being in the room when the baby is born. So we will let you know when that moment is imminent. And if they want to come in, then your job is to come in with them and help hold the space for them. Like, if you are holding them close to you and they can tell that your breathing is regulated and that you're not anxious, they'll pick up on your cues. And they will feel calm too. You can interpret my sounds for them. Oh, your mom's so loud. That's just because she's working really hard. Sometimes when we're working hard, we get really noisy, but she's doing such a great job. Just like those small reassuring statements whispered in their ear, and kind of just shepherd their hearts through witnessing it, while remembering that children are not inherently scared of birth either. They might be nervous about mom's noises and pain, but they don't have years and years of socialization telling them birth is scary and horrific and terrible. So they come to it more with like this open curiosity, not fear and trembling, like some adults would.
Yes, absolutely. I love that you ended there on that that particular thought, because that's always the next thing is, well, are they going to be traumatized by seeing me give birth? And like, honestly, no.
No.
Generally, across the board, unless they've already been fed birth is scary by maybe their own birth story, like time to have some conversations about that. Have they heard birth trauma already? Have they been exposed to any of that? But if not, generally they're not at all afraid. We tell them about, okay, you're going to see some blood, you're going to hear loud noises. Ideally watch some birth videos so that they can see what that looks like, and lots of really great home birth kid books out there if you're really working with some younger ones. That a good storybook or two can really set the stage for them. But generally, kids they're just not bothered by it. They think it's really exciting and cool. Or they're like my oldest, but at the time he was 7, and he was incredibly bored by me pushing his sister's head out. So, it was boring, which he decided to exclaim across the whole room, "This is boring."
Really? That's
Yes,
funny.
he did. Yes, he made I was pushing out her head, and I, like grunted, push, whatever, made some noise, and he went and he ran down the hall, and I was like, "Buddy, Mama's just about to have the baby. It's okay." Like, I think I was like right at crowning. I said something like, "I'm just having the baby right now. It's okay. Mommy's not hurt. Mommy's fine," or something.
You're like reassuring him, basically.
I said something. It was like a 2 or 3 things, but that was the heart of it. It was like, "Mama's okay. We're just having her. Like, Abby's coming out." And he was like, "It's not that. I'm bored."
It's hilarious.
And everyone like just starts, like, everybody like held their breath, and I busted out laughing. And they were like, "Okay, we're allowed to laugh at that. Cool."
Right? I love that they took your cues.
They're like, what? Okay, cool. We can laugh.
And then some kids get almost like a holy hush. Like, they sense that something sacred is happening in the room, and they'll have this reverence almost. Yes. It's really interesting to watch. So you never know how they're going to react, but fear, I don't know if you've ever seen outright fear.
I have seen an outright emergency happen with a child in the room. Literally, her mom was almost like near death. Like, I was scared, but not scared. I wasn't showing the fear.
You were showing it. Yeah.
Okay, we are not doing this today, And this little girl was so not, like, she just was like, okay, we held the space really well and made sure it was calm, and we kept, and we handled it. But like, she was not afraid.
I'm sure that made a big difference.
She just was not afraid. It was really beautiful. And like, I talked with her after we were in the waiting room of the hospital. Like, she just, how we show up for these kids and how we set the stage, they pick up on that. They read that even in scary situations, we can still shepherd their hearts and do so well, because they're not, I don't know. I don't think fear is always just the inherent response to birth for these young ones,
Yeah.
And the other thing that comes up for me with kiddos is that you can almost don't imagine that exactly how they're going to respond. I had one who I always ask my kids, like, do you want to be there? Do you not want to be there? Like, I'm open to you all being there. And honestly, most of my kids haven't really wanted to be present. They want to be like there as soon as the baby's out, but they're just not interested in sitting still and waiting for the birth process. But my one son was very interested. He wanted to be there. He wanted to be present. And I was like, you are a bundle of energy. You don't know how to sit still.
I think I might know which child you're referring to.
Yeah. I was just like, I don't know how that's going to work. And so I just told him, it's like, you're welcome to, but if Mommy says that you need to leave at any point, like, I need you to respect that, because it's working very hard. And sometimes too much activity is going to make it harder on me. So like, so I just had a real conversation with him, but he woke up while I was in labor, and he ended up being the most present little doula. It was just such a good moment. And he was exactly like you said, reverent and present and just a caretaker. He just really, he had my water, and he held my hand, and he just was present. And it was shocking how later on I was like, of course he is such a caretaker. He's always the kid who wants to make sure that everybody got a glass, and they handed out the cookies, and you know, like, can I get one for my brother too? You know, like, he's always that kid. So I was like, of course he would care like this. He
Yeah.
absolutely thinks about other people, but he's such a bundle of energy that I was like, I don't know, this is going to work. But it did. It just was because that part of him rose to the top.
Sure. That makes sense. Yeah.
And so it's fun. But I think ultimately, you know, your kids, and you know, it doesn't have to be a force. They have to be there. They don't have to be there. Have a good plan. Have the point person.
And hold it loosely, I would say. Like, if you do think you want them there, try to hold it loosely.
Yeah.
Because if it's in the middle of the night, for instance, you're probably not going to wake up your kids.
Right.
I mean, maybe the older ones, maybe, but like, if you get really attached to the idea of your children sitting angelically around the birth pool while you give birth and then they don't, like, that's a disappointment.
Or not angelically,
there might just
blowing bubbles
not
into
angelically,
the water.
or they're bored and they don't want to be in the room. And so don't get married to the idea either way. And don't be scared of it either. Like, so don't get married to the idea of being there, and don't get scared of the possibility that they will be there, because it always tends to work out too. Like, I always tell moms, you're going to fret about this a lot. You're probably going to think about every single scenario and like, well, if it's nighttime versus if it's daytime, or like, which kid can I wake up and what do they need? And when should grandma and grandpa come or not come? And do, like, the chances are it'll just work out. It always does. And usually not in the way you think it will, but it does.
Yeah. And
so
I think
trust that.
Birth is just, it is normal. It is it is the most normal miracle that we get to experience in this world. It's just the normal miracle, and it's so beautiful. And I think it can be just part of their life, part of their day. Isn't that so? I mean, I think that's so beautiful that it can just be, this is what happened today. And it's exciting and yet normal. And that, I think, is what I want to give to my kids, whether they've been at the birth or right after the birth, or they're really present for the attitude we have around the birth and the prep going into birth,
and even the fact that it's happening in your home.
And that is something, that is a legacy you're giving them, to not fear around birth. I feel like the moms that really fret even more about this, the ones that are really struggling, tend to have already had some birth trauma or had some birth stories told to them. They were really deeply socialized into the fear of birth, and they're terrified their kid's going to be terrified. And, you know, like, you get to break those chains. You get to make a different story for them and let them experience birth in a totally different way, because fear doesn't have to be innate in this process, and you get them being there, especially as young women. Like, if you've got some preteens or teenage girls, and you know, like, or even young boys, like being able to be seeing their dad show up in a birth space and showing up for their mom, and seeing how strong their mom is, like, all of these things, how strong women are. Like, these are messages we want our kids to get and have and carry into their futures. So I love kids at birth for that reason too. Like, there's a legacy aspect to this whole conversation that I think triumphs over the practicals of, well, do we wake them up? Do we not? Do we have somebody? Do we not? Like just take a deep breath, prep them for being there, show them some videos, read them some books, have some conversations. Don't hand them your fear if you have any.
Yeah.
Let them make their own opinions around it. You know, we don't have to be like, it'll be scary. No, it won't. Like, don't tell them that. If you tell them that, they're going to think it's scary, you know? But I've heard those things, you know, like projecting your own, what you thought or what you experienced or what you thought you would have experienced as a child. Like, just let them have their own experience on it, and prepare them for what they might see. Like, you're going to hear mommy maybe make some noise, or I might go really quiet, or I'm not going to be the one to get you, you know, the snack. Like, this will be your person, and mommy will be really busy and focused on this baby.
And there will be blood, but it's good blood. Like, it's not blood that means danger or something's wrong. Like, yeah. I also have watched
the placenta and the cord.
Yeah, a lot of kids love getting the placenta tour after birth too. That's super 100%. Fascinating little homeschool science lesson.
Yep.
But another thing I've done to prep my kids and often suggest to my clients is, if you think they might be present, is to watch animal birth videos with them, like mammals, cats, dogs, elephants, chimpanzees, like mammals to start often. And then you're just showing them, goats, any mammal really. You're just showing them like birth is normal. Every living creature gives birth. And especially animals don't carry a lot of fear or drama when they give birth. They just give birth. So it's very straightforward. It's usually not a super emotionally charged thing. And so for some small kids, just animal births is enough. And then, but I've also shown my kids home birth videos of humans too. And then I sit there and watch it with them and remain regulated while I watch it so that I'm demonstrating to them, like, this isn't something to be scared of. You know, if you're sitting there like tensing up while you're watching it with your kid, that communicates a message. So you need to be able to be clear and fearless. And then, I'll observe out loud, wow, she's so loud. Or, oh my word, look at that. Can you see the top of the baby's head? With like an excited anticipation tone. So some people I know, and this is fine, like if you don't feel comfortable letting your kids, especially if they're maybe boys or they're older boys, like seeing other women's birth videos, you know, naked ladies, like I completely understand that. Use your judgment. I also like to show my kids home birth videos that feature children present so they can see other kids in a birth space.
Yeah.
I think that can be useful too. It kind of shows them, they can help them imagine what their position might be in that 100%. Situation.
And there's lots of birth videos out there that are not showing the emergence of baby and mom is fairly clothed and you know, or they've posted them in a very modest way, but you still get the atmosphere of the birth, you know, and like what it looked like and sounded like, and that can be really helpful for those concerns.
And then home birth books, children's books. I have a stack of them and I lend them out to my clients if they want to take home and read with their kids. There's lots of lovely ones out there now. I love my little collection. And if you don't want to buy all of them, if you have a doula or midwife, you might ask if they have any in their lending library. I have a Instagram post I made a while ago about books for children about birth that I could put in the show notes too.
Yeah, let's do that.
So just the open conversations without fear. And it's so cool to think about imprinting on our kids that to have one's baby in one's living room or bedroom at home is the normal, the default. My kids have generally been shocked for a while when they realize not everyone was born at home. They're like, Mom, she wasn't born at home. I'm like, honey, actually most people aren't.
Yeah. You know, one other thought that I had, and this is probably just from the midwife mom or midwife brain, kind of protective of moms in the golden hour, especially, is talking to them about mommy gets to hold the baby, especially the you know, these moms that have lots of babies. I have lots of babies. Brooke has lots of babies. I have a low-key theory that a lot of reasons why grand multips, moms who've given birth more than 5 times, are higher risk of hemorrhage is not just because their uterus has done this a lot, but because people are taking their baby from them and they're being passed around the room. And, you know, and it's like, okay, now that all the 6 siblings have had it, the baby's been gone from mom for an hour and a half.
That disrupts all sorts of things.
And they only had them for 2 minutes, but if you have enough kids, you know, that ends up being. So I always talk to my kids about, okay, you won't get to hold the baby until mommy is ready. It'll probably be a couple hours. Like you get to come and sit next to me and smell their head and
touch their foot if you want.
Touch their foot. And that's why one of the reasons I don't cut the cord for a while is like, well, they're still attached. I'm not passed them off yet. But just another little thing to think about in that fresh postpartum space of talking to them, not just about the birth itself, but then also what does postpartum look like, you know, and you can't jump on the bed and we're going to be careful to mommy's tummy and uterus is doing a lot of work right now. Kind of all of those things are also things to prep when you're having these conversations of what does postpartum look like too, not like that fresh postpartum, not just the moment of birth.
Absolutely.
Kind of what gets all the attention most of the time.
We can also, I just thought of this too, in both birth and immediate postpartum, we can invite our children into serving roles and like giving them small age appropriate tasks. Like, will you fill up mama's water bottle, or like get the straw in there? Will you grab that groaning cake from the fridge? Will you use your kitty camera to take some pictures? Or I had one of my kids did that at one of my births. And if they feel purposeful, especially as they get older, that can be really useful too, and give them a chance to see that caring for one another in a family is a 2-way street, not a 1-way street, that children can care for their moms as their moms care for them.
Yes, absolutely.
And lastly, I do want to tell you that one of my children, during the birth of my 5th, when her head was out but her body wasn't out yet, said to me, Mom, when you're done having that baby, I'm going to give you this quarter. He actually had a quarter in his hand. And true to his word, When I finished pushing her out, he gave me a quarter.
He gave me a quarter. Here you go, Mom. Here's your prize. Congratulations.
So it can be a place where funny things come out of children's mouths, and that's a fun time too.
It's so fun. I love kids at birth. I really do.
Yeah, me too. So hope that's helpful to you listeners as you consider what this looks like for your family, but it'll work out.
Till next time.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Holy Wild Birth. We hope that you were genuinely encouraged, inspired, and challenged by what you heard today. If you're loving what you hear, please make sure that you share it. Leave reviews. That helps other mamas find this content as well. And don't forget to read the show notes, okay? Because that's where you can find our email address if you want to reach out to us and start a conversation. It's also where you'll find free offerings as well as invitations to work with me and or Lauren. We can't wait to get to know you. See you next week.